Get started. So welcome to eMIMSplus. You can see here on the home page, there's a little bit more information here than we used to have on MIMS Online. We've dragged some information out and put it out there just to make it easier for you to access. So what I'm going to show you first off is around the drug updates here. So if I skip straight down to product information updates here, so you see there's a number next to it, 151. So our editorial team update monographs each month based on what comes through from the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration. And if you click on that one there, what you'll get is a list of all of the PIs, the type of update, new, revised, and then the part of that PI which has been updated in this month, in this monthly release. So obviously there's a lot there, 150 odd. So what they've also done is gone through those 150 and kind of picked out the really important changes. So if we look at new drugs here, it's just two. So new drugs is new chemical entities, new therapeutic drugs, and this is just a quick summary of what that new drug is and how it works. Just to find it a little bit more, good to know each month. New indications. Similarly, this will be existing drugs where there is an indication update. Usually, it's a new indication. And something, perhaps a new age range, something like that will be in there, or a new indication there. So that's in there as well. Similarly, new contraindications, if there's any updated information on contraindications. So this is the kind of really important stuff, which is good to see. So it could be something which might be useful to flick through every month just to have a quick look at. Safety related change here, it's to do with the age range of the infants. Back on there. So this month, there's also another one here saying important updates. If I click on this one very quickly, this is actually related to the PBS rather than to a specific drug. And that was around the PBS made some fairly major changes to the opioid dependence treatment program this month, which has got quite a big impact. So we also wanted to highlight that just to make sure that people using the reference product are able to see what's going on and get quick access to that kind of information. So moving on to searching, really, I guess that's probably the most important thing to look at. Again, hopefully this is quite intuitive, but just want to go through a few examples with you just to show how we are sort of intending for the search to work. So you can see here in the search bar, search medicines names, ingredients, therapeutic classes, indications, or company names. On the home page, it's a nice big search bar here. You'll also see at the top, same thing here, you're going to get the same functionality if you press that or if you go to the home page there. Also, while I'm showing you this top bar here, it's prudent to show you the user guide. So just so you know, we do have a user guide there. If you want to go back and have a bit of a reference, something, just check something out, feel free to reference that one. The website also is responsive now. So if you're using it on a mobile device or a smaller screen, if I just make it smaller there, you'll see that it automatically it will respond to that change. So if you're using it on a tablet, you can do. We do have an app available as well, but if you're just wanting to use the website on smaller screens, it will also work fine. It will show you nicely. It will render nicely. So if I do a search, I'll start off by searching by brand. So something like Prozac. You see that what comes up there is like an auto suggestion. Now, if I just go straight on there, it's going to take me straight to the PI for that one. That'll take me straight to the abbreviated PI, which will show me that. And then similar to MIMS Online, you'll see that there's across the top here options to look at other types of information. I'll go through that in a bit more detail shortly. But just going back to the search, if I search for an active ingredient, so something like metformin, what you'll see there, you'll see this quite nicely labeled as either brand or ingredient. If I was to hit the brand, it would do the same thing I've just done there. It would go straight to the PI, but I'm going to go with the ingredient. And what you'll see here is a search result very similar to what you've seen on MIMS Online. So you got the brand names that have this ingredient in it, and it's got the brand, the ingredient, the company, just some like really useful usage and dosage information straight up in the search results screen, as well as the images, and then the shortcuts to the other parts of the website that might be useful. So that's, like I say, same sort of results screen that you should be used to from MIMS Online. The other types of searches we can do, if I go back to the home page, things like therapeutic classes, indications, and company names. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our therapeutic classes. And just before I show you that, to me, the best way of becoming familiar is if you use our browse function. It's probably most useful for this therapeutic class sort of functionality. And what you'll see is a tree. And if you go into this tree, it will give you minor ones. And then if you click on that, that's your therapeutic class. So anti-angina agents is your therapeutic class, and it will give you all of the drugs that come through with that therapeutic class. So if I straight up search a therapeutic class, I use something like antiemetic. You can see there's eMIMSplus antiemetics there. So same thing, it's going to bring me back all of the drugs which are contained in the therapeutic class for that particular one. What you might also notice here, just out of interest, is discontinued products are coming through. So they didn't come through traditionally in MIMS Online. They won't come through in every single search result. So if I was just to look for that Anzimet one as a brand, I wouldn't get anything. But if I hit enter, it will actually come through. So if you are wondering what's happened to something, if you were expecting something to be there, you're holding a packet in your hand and you can't find it, try that out. Type it in, hit enter, and it will show you if it's been discontinued, and it will give you the date that it was taken off the database as well. Going back to our search, we've done medicines names, ingredients, and therapeutic classes. So indications will be the next one to have a look at. So again, I'm going to look at antiemetics. You would have seen when I searched that before, there's these action use ones as well as the therapeutic class. So these are going to be a bit more specific. So if I was to go to this one, serotonin antagonist, that's going to get me all of the like ondansetron, phenylensetron, antiemetics come through there. Again, if you're sort of not familiar with the indications or you're wondering what type of thing might come through, the browse function is a good way to have a look at them, or just play around. If you have time, play around. So we could use something more broad, like heart failure, and that will give us lots of results, about 144 results. But that's all going to be various different products which are indicated for use in heart failure. So a final search parameter that we can use would be the manufacturer. So if we do something like Glaxo, that will just show you a list of all the products that Glaxo have there. Nice and easy. So go back to the search page again and just look at the PIs with a little bit more detail. So I'm actually not going to spend a huge amount of time on the PIs, and that's probably sounds a bit counterintuitive. We're well aware that this is the real bread and butter of what we're giving you. The PIs are the most accessed part of our data. And as a result, we really haven't made any major changes to them. It's purely cosmetic, a little bit easier to read, slightly bigger font there. You can see now we've got the images are sort of coming up a bit more front and center. And if you do find that the font, slightly bigger font, means that you're having to scroll where you didn't used to, and you don't like that, there's this nice quick menu on the side here that you can just easily navigate your way around the abbreviated PI. The other thing to maybe look at is the PBS information attached to the abbreviated. Again, it's the same information, but we've made it a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to read. And things like the Streamline Authority code is now coming out, much more easily. You can actually see the PBS code itself now. So if you wanted to cross-check it against PBS website, or if you just wanted to know exactly which one we're looking at, it's all there. And then the restrictions here on the side. If there's a very long restriction text, you can click on that and it will give you the full text. Again, as per previous. So when we look at the drugs here, you can see along the top here, we've got various other information that we can look at for this particular item. So all of these tabs here are going to be specific to this drug that we're looking at. So in this case, Sofran. So if I go to the full PI, similar to the abbreviated PI, look, this is the same data, same information, same layout. You should see no change at all, apart from it being nicer to read, a bit easier on the eye. And again, the nice, easy to navigate menu down the side there. So the CMI, again, so you can see the CMI here just rendered on the screen there. This particular drug has several, so you can see down the side, you can choose which one you want to look at. So you can look at the tablets, or you can look at the wafers. And then if you wanted to print that out or send that, you can do so. We do have the functionality to email and print, but advice is really just use a PDF. It's much easier. So if you get the PDF and print that or email that, it's just going to be a nicer rendering for the patient to read it at the end of the day. So Crush. Now the Crush information, as I hope you know, is something that we partner with SHPA to provide. So SHPA go through and find all this information about medicines that can and cannot be crushed. And we then provide it to our end users in eMIMSplus. So you can see here, we link it to the brand. So we had the brand Zofran, the active ingredient to that is ondansetron. So that is the monograph that we see if we navigate to the Crush tab on this particular product. Now, just as a note, I was just showing you the sort of the menus down the side to navigate the information for the PIs and MIMS. This menu is actually slightly different. This is the SHPA's opening pages. This gives a lot more context around the background, the Crush information, and more kind of use and practice, that kind of thing. So it's got things like, decision-making trees, comparative tables for similar drugs, and then more information about the methods and what have you. But you can always pop back to your main monograph by just clicking on there. So drug interactions. If you navigate to drug interactions from a product like this, what you're going to get is all of the interactions for that drug. So you click on there and you're going to get the interactions there. So you can see the brand name there, first of all, and then in square brackets, the active ingredient name, and then the interacting medicines, which will always be active ingredients in this case. So we get a list of all the interactions that we have in the database, and they are in order of severity. If you want more details about them, we click on that, and similar to what you'd be accustomed to at the moment, you get a little bit more information just around, a quick summary of what's happening, what precautions to take, the details around the mechanism of the interaction and the references, and then the actual classes which we put them into. Travel interactions is our IM gateway. Now, we actually don't have access to this one at the moment, and I believe that Queensland Health also don't have one, so we won't spend too long on that one. The CYP450 table. This is actually something that we've had for many years. It was in our old book, and we've just brought it out and put it on the website to make it a little bit more accessible. It's something that is useful as a comparison. We're looking at drug metabolism pathways, the cytochrome P450 drug metabolism pathways, and we just have a sort of cross-reference table looking at substrates, inhibitors, and inducers, and it will just sort of help to see possible interactions that way as well, whether theoretical or in actual fact. I'm going to go back to the home page now, and then look at some of the other functionality that we have here. So you can navigate this in shortcuts here, which will show us most of them, or in the tools and resources on the top there. So if I go straight back to Don't Rush to Crush, so we already looked at Don't Rush to Crush coming down there from Zofran, from the product. If you actually didn't want to have to go via a branded product and just wanted to search the active ingredient, you can do that here. So you can just click on that shortcut, and then you can type an ingredient, and it will just take you straight to that monograph and give you the information that you want. Equally, if you wanted to just look at a brand name in here as well, so if we wanted to look at Zofran again, you'd find that, and that will just take you straight back to that one as well. Gateway, that's the herbal interaction, so we won't look at that one. The interaction checker, so like I said previously, we saw it where you can look at it as kind of a reference where you're looking at all of the interactions for a particular product. If you wanted to actually do more of a medication check and put in several medications and check them against each other, that's really what we would do here. So what do I want to look at? Look at something like a combination between ritonavir. So similar to all the functionality we've always had, you can use active ingredients or you can use brand names and a combination of both in this input screen. So I could put in like Codral Original, and then something like Vitor. And that's only going to check that specific combination. So it's checked the combination of all of the ingredients in the Codral, which will be probably 2 or 3 in that particular one, versus Lipitor, versus ritonavir, and all of the various combinations. And it comes out with just one interaction. So and it's similar to earlier, if you click on that, then that's going to give you the full information on that interaction. And if you want to just clear that information, you can just clear it here. Or you could continue to add more and check more and more. The allergy is a new functionality, so excited to be able to show you that one. And how that works is we classify drugs into what we call allergy classes. So there'll be classes of drugs with similar kind of structures. Usually they have similar therapeutic use, sometimes they don't. And the assumption being, well, the assumption is based on evidence that if a patient is allergic to one drug in that class, there's a strong likelihood that a similar drug with a similar structure is also going to cause an allergy in that patient, and therefore it will give you an alert. So use a nice simple example. I'm going to use penicillin. So as before, you can use active ingredients, you can use brand names. There's also a few, not many, but a few allergy classes. So something like penicillins, which is very common, we have that as an allergy class as well. So we can record an allergy of penicillin, so that's our known allergy. And then in this top box, we would put in the drugs which might be prescribed. So if I look at something like chloramphenicol, obvious like amoxil, and then like a Nurofen. So what this will then do is it's going to check our allergy, and it's also actually going to check for drug interactions as well. You can see here, first tab is showing us the drug interaction that comes through, so the amoxicillin chloramphenicol. And then if I click over to the allergy, that's going to give us an alert that this may cause an allergic reaction. So fairly straightforward one, amoxicillin with penicillins. And what it is just going to say is that it belongs to the same class. It may cause an allergy. Okay. The next thing to look at would be pill identifier. So pill identifier has been in MIMS Online and other reference products as well, so it's been around for a while. There's just some tweaks to make it a little bit easier to use, a bit more intuitive and a bit quicker. So you're not, it's not quite so specific in your requirements, and it will filter down the more information you put in. So easiest way is just to demo. So shape, pick a shape. I'm going to pick round. Then color, go with white. You can see it sort of gradually moving down, and if I use scoring, yes, and then marking 200, and you can see there it's just narrowing it down to the images that we have that will meet those particular criteria. So you could do that any number of ways. If it was a more straightforward, a bit more of a weird color, you would find an answer much quicker. So I think I'll go to is the tools and resources. So we've looked at Don't Rush to Crush, we've looked at the interaction checker, and we've looked at the pill identifier, and we've looked at the SIP table. So next thing would be the inhaler technique video. So we've partnered with Lung Foundation Australia. There's just a few here, but they're really nice videos around inhaler technique. So it links out to another website, which I won't click on it and show you. But that's what it does. So it's quite useful just if you want to give some extra information, just an extra demo, even just a link to someone around their inhaler technique. I'll quickly pop to our pregnancy module. So what we're doing here is the TGA pregnancy information, but we're just trying to make it a little bit easier to find and a little bit more sort of context around it, a bit more useful. So you can use either active ingredient, brand, or therapeutic class. So if I do something like fluticasone, oh, I spelled it. So choose an ingredient, and then what's going to come through is all of the preparations, all of the brands which contain that ingredient. As you can see in this case, there's quite a few with combinations and what have you, and then the pregnancy code that goes with it, the therapeutic class it sits in, and then any TGA notes that go with that active ingredient. And then if I was to go to here, that's actually going to bring up the pregnancy information from the full PI as well. So you're going to get a little bit more context, a little bit more information that sort of comes from that manufacturer's information if you're really mainly just interested in finding out whether something is suitable or not for a pregnant person. The brand name, if you search that, you could just search, so you could just search Dymista directly and get the same information just by itself. And I think quite a nice one though is to look at the therapeutic class. So if I was to look at something like anticonvulsants, that's going to take out all of the members of the anticonvulsants therapeutic class, and then it's going to give you the pregnancy category for each of those, any extra information from TGA here on this side, and then information from the full PI when you hit that I as well. That's quite a nice way of sort of comparing different options. Going back to here, next thing to look at will be IV compatibility. Again, this is brand new kind of functionality. The content itself is coming from the full PI, but we've just tried to make it easier to find on the assumption that, you know, sometimes you're looking for something very specific in the PI and you don't want to read through absolutely everything, you know, there's sort of 30 pages. So if I look at this example here, what you can see is basically just the information that we could find in this drug about IV compatibility. So knowing compatibility information, then it's got a whole heap of like compatibility and stability information there. If I go here, click on the full PI, that will obviously give me the full PI, but just also to show you for drugs where we have this functionality, you can see a little symbol here on the side saying IV compatibility. So if you click on that, that's just going to give you that same information that we got from going directly to the IV module in the tools section. But if you were just in the full PI and you saw that little symbol, you could just click on that and then you would get this information pulled out for you as well. Going back to here, if we could just look at another example just to show you. So you can see here a little bit less information, but actually quite useful just on the incompatibilities, what they do know, and then a little bit about the sort of administration, speed and dilutions that come into there. Now the last two here, dental medicine and medicines in sport, watch this space, they're not quite ready yet. They will be available fairly soon. Just going to have some specific information around dental medicines and then the medicines in sport, which will work a lot like the medicines in pregnancy module that we just looked at. So the final thing, I guess, to look at from here would just be these last resources here. These four tabs here, they're information that's available elsewhere, but we're just trying to bring them into the website with a view that people don't have to click out to find it. So this is the WADA guide. So it's the updated WADA guide. It gets updated every year and it will be updated in here every year. And it will just, gives you the information that you could find on the WADA website, but just means that you don't have to always go back there. Similarly, the pregnancy information, this is the information available on the TGA website, just gives you that background and extra context around the pregnancy information. Brand substitution from PBS. Same. This is available on the PBS website, but you have to trawl through a lot of information on the PBS website to find it. So just trying to make it a little bit more accessible. And then finally, the oral contraceptives. Now this one, if you're familiar with eMIMSbook or if you used eMIMSbook in the past, again, you might have seen this in the past. It was always there as one of the opening pages. And actually, it's something that we tried to take it away and we got feedback saying, please put it back immediately. So we realized that there is a value for it. And mainly because it's a really quick, easy way to compare contraceptives. So compare the estrogen type and then the estrogen strength versus the progesterone type and the progesterone strength. And it's an easy way to look at equivalent products as well, equivalent brands. So I think that's